Appreciate it. All right, looks like we got a bunch of people coming in here. What a start to a new week. Welcome everybody. This is the ECC Future Leaders Alumni Engagement webinar series. This one is the Cross Automation Energy Industries. I'm Sherry Gabra. I'm the first year future leader here. I'm a project engineer at AEP in the PAEN Industries. And I'm here today with Tillich, future leader alum. Tillich, would you like to?
Yeah, hey, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, and looking forward to having a quick conversation with you today.
Love it. So with ECC, there's always we have to carry the values of ECC, and so with that being said, let me pull up the antitrust statement here. So this is a free exchange of ideas, the discovery of new perspectives, and the exploration of today's biggest challenges. So please adhere to these antitrust guidelines. Please no discussion or sharing of any confidential information, no explicit or implicit exchanges of prices or products, etc. Today we're really just talking about cross automation, getting to know Tillich, myself, and touch on some of these hot topics that we have today. And so with that, as a project engineer myself, I see cross automation as a way of safety. I have all this passion, all the passion that goes into my work is based out of, knowing that I'm keeping people safe. And I know that's really important to me, but, can you tell me a little bit about you, Tillich, and your, experience in process automation, kind of just what got you here, what's kept you, and a little bit about you and your family?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, like I said, thank you for having me here today. And man, I can't believe it. It's almost 20 years in the industry, and it just feels like this yesterday. I walked in, going, man, look at all these people have been here for a long time, and now I'm that guy, right?
Yeah.
But my background is I'm an electrical engineer by degree, but worked in the oil, gas, and chemical space most of my career, and more specifically in this process automation application part of that industry. And we asked about the passion for it a little bit. And when I first got out of college, I didn't know that this is what I would really find interesting, and I didn't know that I'd be here most of my career. And so what I'd love to kind of share is that as I've engaged in this industry, it really fell in love with, first of all, the industry itself and oil and gas, but also what we do for the industry with helping our customers and process automation applications is a great way to do it. Again, 11 years with ABB. My background's a lot of sales and marketing, as well as being in leadership.
So yeah, like what's kept you so long? I mean, 20 years is.
Yeah, hey, like I said, I think I fell in love, and thought I'd love to go work at Microsoft or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, this is an industry that I have passion for.
Right. So speaking of family and safety, you want to tell me a little bit about your family?
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures here, and really, family is in the heart of everything I do. You talk about safety, obviously that's really important from that perspective. But I'll start with some pictures here. On the bottom left is my beautiful wife of 15 years, Roshni. And then my 8-year-old twins, Vishal and Priyanka. They're kind of my world. And as you can see, we love as a family to travel, doing outdoorsy things, and we picked up a family hobby that is skiing. Living in Texas, I could pick the less expensive hobby, but it's what everybody gravitated towards. So we do it a couple times a year. And then we enjoy, trying out new foods and going places together.
Yeah, I can see the snow being enticing living in Houston. That's for sure. As a Clevelander, we get plenty of snow. Yeah, but speaking of safety and just thinking about it, I know I'm working on my future and buying a house and having an inspection, and I think about safety in my home. So as far as safety in my home goes, what things could I be looking out for?
Yeah, one thing. We talk about this, but I guess we don't necessarily think about it all the time, is carbon monoxide. You can't smell it, you can't taste it. And when it does happen, usually the results are not very, very good. And so one thing is just to make sure that, you're aware of the dangers, and then have the, safety detection in your homes. Living in the Gulf Coast, we've had a lot of hurricanes and things like that, lots of power losses over the last few years. So people went out and got a lot of generators, right?
Oh, I see.
And so these standby generators tend to be next to your home. where the fumes can go into your attic. So, one thing, I just recently installed these in my house, is to put in these carbon monoxide detectors in your attic, which is something you don't naturally think about.
Right.
And all the other stuff as far as making sure that you're checking on them and don't ignore them.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Making sure that you check those detectors every 6 months and changing batteries, that's for sure. Always important, because you don't smell it, you don't see it, you gotta be aware of yourself and your surroundings, right? And so, thinking about like safety, safety and process automation are kind of go hand in hand. So when it comes to about process automation, can you give me kind of a quick superficial, overview?
Yeah, hey, process automation is really about taking your everyday processes in industry and reducing or eliminating human interaction where you can and doing it safely. And when you implement it the right way, it not only helps you operate well, but also helps you operate safely. Because as humans, we can only look at and manage so many things, and as an automation system, it can take care of everything else that you're not looking at and give you areas where you can focus.
So moving away from bench boards and and piston switch valves and all that stuff.
Yeah, these new controls are kind of sexy actually. They might even get some of these new college grads showing up.
Well, talking of process automation, let's take a look at what we have here. I think
Instinct, curiosity, and a pioneering spirit have always taken us further. Where others may see limits, we're pushing ourselves towards them, moving beyond the constraints of the possible, finding rhythm and flow through collaboration, empowering our world to grow. We automate, electrify, and digitalize the largest and most complex infrastructures on our planet. Helping to orchestrate industries and society to run safer, smarter, and more sustainably, and conduct the magic behind our everyday life. Making a world of difference with process automation.
well, that was quite a video. I really like the analogy of the orchestra and process automation. It kind of feels like how I feel when I'm, engineering a project, tying all these different pieces, parts together and putting them all in one. But with ABB in process automation, there has to be a motto or drive here. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, that video always gives me a chill. You ask me why I love this industry. It's because a little bit about what that video says. And then, hey, great job on context matters, right? So we'll talk about that later as well. That's why we wanted to kind of play that off early. But hey, from ABB, we say we help our customers engineer to outrun, right? That's really our motto. And so our goal is to help our customers, outrun leaner and cleaner, and really kind of outrun not only how they operate from a facility perspective, outrun their competitors, and really focus on their operations. So that's really why we say engineer to outrun as how ABB can help.
So, talking about, process automation, I mean, there's definitely more to ABB besides process automation. Can you touch on some of the other sectors?
Yeah, as the slide says, right, we say process automation is a part, but there's also a lot of other things that make the body operate. And when we look at electrification and some of the other things, it's really about everything else around it. So ABB does really focus on automation, electrification, instrumentation as a core of what we do across our business. And we do it across a lot of industries, right? Actually, all the industries, to be frank.
Right.
So anything from food and beverage to heavy industries to data centers. And if you look at the very right, you'll also see what looks like propellers. And that's exactly what they are. We actually have a solution for cruise ships. If you've ever been on a cruise ship or take your kids on a Disney cruise, ABB operates with our ASI pods all those cruise ships. The reason they're so smooth is because of our technology that enables them to operate and give you that experience, right? So really everything from food and beverage to heavy industries to entertainment is where ABB plays.
So ABB must be really everywhere then.
It's everywhere. It's the biggest company nobody knows about, right? Unless they order up.
So, talking about process automation, just kind of where we are now, maybe we could talk about, what's today and where we came from. Could you give me an idea?
Yeah, hey, cost automation today is kind of anti to the game. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to say I'm going to build a new plant and not have any automation.
Right.
That leader's going to probably get fired the next day. So, it's in everything you do, right? It's from measuring what's in the field and taking that information and being able to operate the facility, to be able to detect kind of abnormal situations, to be able to react from a safety perspective, also to provide information so that you can make decisions across the board. As it kind of evolves, you'll start to evolve into other new spaces we'll talk about in a minute, but also to be able to integrate today, process automation, not just about the automation piece, also about integrating electrical and integrating other technologies into your process automation, and it's really the heart of everything that happens at your facility and that source of information.
I see. So, there's a lot of data coming in from the field then, huh?
There's data everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. So, we know what today looks like, but where did we come from to come to this point?
Hey, today like I said, we take this for granted, but it wasn't always this way. Refineries weren't started today, but today they operate a lot more efficiently than they used to in the past, right? And so as you look at it from either 70s or even before, we started with very basic controls, whether it's relays or pneumatic or mechanical,
Right.
and we evolved into kind of information systems in the 80s and 90s. And, you start seeing things like ERP, which is Enterprise Resource Planning, or you start looking at other acronyms like MES, it's a little bit of word salad up there, right? But as you evolve into information systems, you started getting new ways to connect to data and new places where the data is coming from. So if you look at the 5-layer architecture right in the middle there, you get the data from the instrument that's in the field. You take that data to control. You provide a view into that data from SCADA or HMI. And then you start going to production planning, which is what MES is, and then ERP, which is a business side.
See.
Now, today, we're talking about, we've heard about Industry 4.0, Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, right? So now we're really struggling with or trying to solve the problem of integrating that data in a cost-effective way. And the magic to this is how do we take all that data and do something with it?
Right.
And that's where, the 2-letter word that you hear about everywhere today is probably the most important topic, because of what you do with that data into where it goes.
Right. So, the tool that you're talking about, is that the buzzword that we've all been hearing, AI?
There's nothing else, right?
Oh, gosh. So, if you could, it's tying AI into process automation, how does that look like?
Yeah, hey, if you look at the previous slide, we talk about how you take all this data and then you have to kind of take that data and do something with it. It's really about contextualizing that data for AI, because AI is not this magical system that's going to automatically do everything that humans can do. We're still important because we have a great ability to contextualize what's happening and make decisions. So we have to give AI the opportunity to do that. So what the transition is going to be is to get that data in a meaningful way so that we can actually allow or give AI the context. As I mentioned earlier, without the music earlier, the video didn't have context.
Yeah.
And so AI also needs context for it to make decisions, right? So as you look into that, and we get into AI, what I think is going to be important in this space is how we work with AI and the changing roles that we're going to have. It's not something to be afraid of, unless as a kid I watched too much Terminator and Skynet said it can't take over, but it's our responsibility to use AI at the end of the day. And not only from how we interact with it, but also how people are developing it. And I think there's lots of things that are happening in that background. But on the foreground for us, it's about leveraging AI in just everyday tasks where it makes our lives a little bit easier, to actually allowing it to augment the work that we do, whether it's as an engineer or in different, go around the project management or whatever it might be. And then in the future, giving it the tools towards autonomous so that we start to minimize human interaction. But again, it doesn't mean that human decision making goes away tomorrow, right? It's still important in the end result of where we look at.
So we're not removing the human aspect at all, right?
I don't
It's
see
just,
that.
it's an added tool that we can use, and as long as we're using it responsibly and with discipline and understanding of how it's supposed to work, then it'll potentially be benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, no matter what position you're in, what role you're in, or what you do, I think it's about upskilling ourselves so we can interact with it. Because otherwise, I think we're not going to be competitive for our own selves, right?
Right. And so with that, what type of use cases do you see AI?
I mean, there's lots of use cases. I mean, the simple ones are, it takes my meeting notes for me now, right? I go in a meeting and my goal is for it to not tell me how many actions I have, when I get out of that meeting. So, so I try to not say too many things, but so it's as simple as kind of helping you with the daily tasks, or whether I need to write a really formal email and it needs to help me clean up how my email looks, to something even more meaningful, right? And this is where I think it's about how we have to learn to interact with AI, because when you start talking about things like code generation, it's garbage in and garbage out. So we really have to figure out how to interact with AI in a meaningful way so that what it actually develops. There's nobody on this call or here that would say, I'm super comfortable with the computer converting my plan to the next generation.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be comfortable with that.
I mean, and you're an engineer and you shouldn't be comfortable with that. But it's not there today. So I think that giving it that context and helping AI kind of do the mini tasks so you speed up the end result. The other places are, things like helping us get towards autonomy. So I don't think autonomous operations is something that we can see tomorrow, but we can get there, right? We can take a startup function that has 100 different clicks and remove it to 3. So it's really about making those things faster. And when you do that, you tend to make ourselves more efficient. And finally, it's about copilots. Whether it's copilot like I talked about in a meeting with me,
right,
or copilot in how we make decisions when we operate a facility, or copilots in how it provides us context to when we can talk about a lot of data. What AI is really good at synthesizing data when it is contextualized, and so really how it actually becomes a assistant to you, like a cruise control in your car.
Right. Oh, I see.
Or adaptive cruise control probably is probably more.
Gotcha. And so, do we have any examples of any AI use that we've done so far?
Yeah, hey, we're as a company, we're trying to do it internally, right, for our team, but also externally support our customers. As I mentioned, how do you help them outrun, right? And one of those areas is to help them run leaner, and in AI and energy. Energy is probably the most thirsty resources out there from a need perspective. So optimizing it allows us to then maybe not develop as much energy resources, right? So in energy management and energy optimization, we're leveraging AI to help our customers make decisions on when to operate, how to operate, and to also reduce their overall costs, because utilities have significant penalties when you operate the wrong way at the wrong time.
Right.
So AI can help kind of look at what your production needs are, calculate that against what the costs are going to be, and help you make a decision that's meaningful for you to go do that. So we're embedding into things like that. We'll start seeing it in asset performance. We'll start seeing it in a lot of different applications where AI can really help drive decision making.
Well, that's exciting. In talking about the energy sector and industry generally, another buzzword comes to mind, and I would think that AI can possibly tie into it, but nuclear. Where do we see ourselves in the nuclear sector?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of nuclear. I know we kind of go from a public sentiment standpoint, it goes ups and downs and things like that. The most recent down cycle was the Fukushima, when they had the meltdown due to the tsunami. But I think nuclear has been around for a long time, and if you look at industry, it relatively has a pretty safe operating record. There's a lot of regulation around nuclear, but I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of what's happening in the industry today as far as small modular reactors. And so these new development of nuclear is really designed to be inherently safe. So it reduces some of that risk that was maybe there in the previous iterations. So there was lots and lots of safety built around it, which also increased costs and things like that. So as you look at nuclear, we talk about energy transition and energy additionality, and I talk about thirst for energy.
Right.
Wind and solar and these other cleaner forms of energy can't do that.
Right.
Nuclear is probably the cleanest form of energy that's going to allow us to get base load, so that we can operate our AI data centers and things like that are going to take a lot more energy. We used to think refineries were the biggest energy consumers at 100 megawatts. An AI data center today is a gigawatt. So it's 10x scale or more of energy that our traditional industries used to take. most energy intensive traditional industries.
So are we seeing nuclear as, kind of monopolizing a little bit more as far as energy goes?
I wouldn't think of it, I think it's all forms of energy have a space.
Right.
And so we can't say it's one or the other. I think it's really all, and it's about where we do it. Nuclear is going to take years to develop into something that's actually something we can depend on.
Right.
In the meantime, we have to rely on our conventional sources and hopefully develop them in a cleaner way.
I see. So, I mean, there has to be some challenges that we're going to be seeing. What challenges should we expect to remain competitive, and how do you see us, kind of competing?
I mean, the biggest challenge for nuclear has to be competitive. But beyond that, I think there's the public sentiment piece. You have to kind of get over not in my backyard type of a concept, right. As well. But there's things around, how do they lower their costs because CapEx is so high to be competitive with low cost LNG or natural gas based generation, or even in some ways solar and offshore wind. And then, the licensing piece, because what nuclear is and the public sentiment, it tends to be a very heavy regulatory process. And so working with, groups like NRC to say, how do we do it safely, but also take the overhead down of that regulatory process. And then the other pieces, right, the things that we're always worried about, even our conventional industries, is protect against those kind of physical and bad actors like cyber threats and things like that.
Right.
And then being able to then operate over a period of time. These nuclear facilities today have been running for 40 plus years. So these are also expected to do that. So we have to obviously maintain that.
Right. And be able to sustain it, right, especially for the coming future. And so kind of with that, I know that ABB has some solutions for some critical areas and non-critical. Can you walk me through a little bit of how ABB ties into nuclear in this way?
Yeah, I mean, with ABB, as I mentioned, we really do a lot of things around instrumentation, electrification, automation, which is something we're talking a lot about today. So when you look at nuclear is kind of parsed into two different kind of distinct areas: the critical area, which is really the kind of the nuclear island, the reactor island, and then the non-critical process area, which is a balance of plant and everything else around that supports the kind of critical area of the reactor itself. So from ABB perspective, we tend to operate in the non-critical balance of plant type applications, and we partner with key partners in the space to address the critical area applications. So we do everything from control systems, whether that's process or safety, and safety is not limited to critical area. There's a lot of safety functions in the non-critical area as well. The balance of plants with electrical and all the other stuff that kind of comes around there. To make power, you need excitation and synchronization. You support those types of systems, and digital and everything else around that, whether it's operating control rooms or not operating, but really developing control rooms that are modernized.
Yeah.
So all these spaces where we can help support the industry.
Right. Yeah. So, and like even seeing the non-critical area, I see that there's automation still and control room solutions and such. And so, that kind of pops out to me, and this is what I'm going to be looking forward to as a project engineer. But we've talked about a lot of topics in a short amount of time, Taylor. I mean, we've gone through what process automation is, about it. We saw a nice video, and we learned a little bit about process automation and evolution of control systems, AI, and how nuclear ties in. So do you have any success stories or something that you want to bring up?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to talk about something that we're very proud of at ABB as well, right? And so one of the industries that is booming today is LNG. For those that don't know, which I think everybody probably knows, is liquefied natural gas, right? It's taking natural gas and cooling it down a lot and making it liquid so you can transport it. And we have a ton of that resource everywhere, especially in Texas. And it's a resource that we can't use enough of. So we export it to Europe and Japan and other places that really need it and that don't have the energy security that we have. So one of the major projects ABB is involved in across our entire company is Rio Grande LNG. It was at one point when it was actually launched, the largest privately funded project in the U.S. I think it was an $18 billion capex, and for a company like Bechtel's largest EPC project that they're taking as a lump sum. So ABB is a key partner, doing everything from the entire automation, process automation scope and the safety scope, as well as the electrification scope, including things like operator simulations and all the stuff that we talked about today.
Right. Yeah.
As we look to the future, these are the projects where we can actually take everything else that ABB does around digitalization, and leveraging AI can really help make this the most efficient project from an LNG perspective that's out in the market. We're doing the first 3 trains right now, and if you see the news, trains 4 and 5 are going to FID pretty soon. So this is a project and development that we see a lot of potential for in the future.
Yeah, you seem really passionate about it.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
I'd like to say it's a project I've been involved in for a decade. So
Yeah, and so, kind of bringing it back to, ECC here, I'm a first year future leader, and I've gone to a couple of these conferences already and met some really great people, and listen, some of the keynote speakers are really great to listen to. But as a alumni, what was your favorite thing about ECC, and what recommendations or suggestions do you have for me as a first year?
ECC, I think, is one of the best run, not only conferences, but just kind of groups that's out there, right? It's extremely professional in everything that ECC does. But as a future leader, I mean, some of my best memories of people that met the program and just the times that we've been able to meet, whether it's at Next or at the conference, the annual conference. Unfortunately, I missed it this year for the first time in a long time.
Oh God!
But it's a really great opportunity to kind of connect with your industry peers. It's a great opportunity to kind of share ideas, but it's also a great place to create friendships and lasting friendships. So yeah, so what's my recommendation for you? I think getting leads, right? And you're already doing that, and I think take advantage of the network that you're going to build that's out there, because everybody that's here wants to work together. It's about sharing best practices, making our industry that we work in better, right? And it's kind of taking, it's a lot of the things that we've seen in the conference last few years, taking the stigma out and really kind of bringing the talent into our industry. And so I'm a huge supporter of ECC, and I encourage you to kind of take the opportunity to really build those lasting relationships.
Oh, I'm already starting to do that, I think, here so far. You were the first person that I talked to about ECC and joining as a future leader. And, the way you talked about it is what really got me into it, right? Is the engagement with people, the networking, and just knowing that we're all here to kind of share these solutions together. And, these webinar series, it's just really great to have an opportunity to talk about these topics and sit down with an alumni here. But with that said, I think we're ready to take some questions from anybody in the audience. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the Q&A, and we can get started. So it looks like we have a question here saying, will we see AI being used in more solutions? Seems like we can shape tools and solutions around AI, agents, assistants, yet the sentiment around the tools is still hazy, mostly due to the security.
Hey, I mentioned earlier responsible use AI, and I'm a big proponent both internal use and for external use, as I mentioned. But on the internal side, it sounds like which is where this is, which is aimed at, meaning internal as in like consuming as companies is. You're absolutely right. I think you have to first of all learn how to engage with AI, but also see what tools will help you where. So companies like ADB, what we've done is to kind of take things like Copilot and use it within our ecosystem, so that when we use it for our data is secure. Because if you go to ChatGPT's website and you put something that's proprietary, guess what? The whole world has access to that information.
Right.
The first thing is being able to then onboard the AI tools into your ecosystem, and secondly, it's being smart about which ones you pick. You don't have to go all in with AI. As a matter of fact, I'd recommend not going all in with AI and starting with small wins, because it's also kind of getting the sentiment in, right? I was just reading this article over the weekend about how this CEO of a software company, this is not going to happen here, but fired 80% of his staff because he was trying to weed out people that didn't want to participate in AI. But he's also getting a lot of pushback even with that, right? So it's not about like forcing people to go do it. It's about having them really understand where the value is for themselves. And so starting small, and when you find benefit for yourself, then you use it more and more.
Right. So I love that take. Seems like we have another question here. Is there any anticipation that idle nuclear plants may become active in the coming year with increased power demands?
Hey, I think we're already seeing this trend a little bit, right? In the U.S., there's there's Palisades and there's 3 Mile Island that are restarting, I think, in the next year or two. But also, you're starting to see countries like Japan, which completely shut down all their nuclear reactors, actually restart some of these. Now, it's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It doesn't happen overnight. So this is the process of restarting a nuclear plant is almost as long as building a new conventional generation plant. But it's important they do it safely, and absolutely you're seeing it. The other thing you're seeing is extensions of nuclear licenses. The original licenses have been extended 40 years, 20 years plus 20, and then now we're seeing another 20-year extension. So you're starting to see these plants operating for almost 60 years in the future.
Wow. Okay. So with SMNRs coming into play, how much safer do we know that they are going to be at this time?
I think the expectation is that they're safe. They're designed to be more inherently safe, right? But so we expect it to be that way. So there's lots of like built-in safeguards. The processes are just kind of naturally safer than how they're operating today. Things have evolved, controls have evolved, that type of stuff. So we're expecting to be safer. I think it's because none of them are operating today. It's hard to say in practice what the reality is going to be, but the licensing and everything points to the direction that it will be safe.
Yeah, I've seen that the emergency plan radius is actually reduced with a small modular reactor from upwards of 30 miles down to 10 miles, maybe less. So that would mean we wouldn't be imposing on the local people.
I think there's two things, right? One is the size of the reactor, so the reactor is also smaller by definition, but also you're also starting to then by the safety that's built in, start reducing.
Gotcha. When you're thinking of Optimax, wondering if it can help with decreasing overall nuclear waste. Is there an initiative focused on adapting solutions to this rising in the industry?
I think it's. I'm sure there's lots of things that are going on around that space, right? But first part is to actually get the industry going. Waste comes years and years down the line. As a matter of fact, a lot of nuclear waste is actually stored in the reactor.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Before it's actually shipped off. So it's definitely a conversation point today. But I think the most important conversation point today is actually getting this industry to take off first, and then those solutions will come. It's definitely not something that people are putting as something they don't have to worry about, but it's definitely, I think, secondary to actually driving the industry forward.
Okay, I mean, so some of us are thinking so we know how process automation ties into a regular nuclear reactor plant. How does that tie into small SMNs?
So I think it ties into, as I mentioned, everything from core kind of critical control, which, as I mentioned, is a lot of times managed directly by the developer or the technology developer, but everything around it, right? Whether it's the balance of plant, the pumping, the cooling, the whatever else ancillary systems that are there, and both of those systems have both process and they have safety. And today, most of these technologies are in that development phase of actually integrating it. So the companies that we're working with, we're actually helping them develop those philosophies and those practices as they develop their technology.
I see. So process automation plays a role in wastewater, plays a role in electrical and a lot of things. So when it comes to storage and management of future nuclear reactor waste, we would still be a part of that in some ways, maybe with extra interlocks and extra safety. But
as a matter of fact, ABB's been involved in that. Gosh, I don't know for how long, but
since the beginning.
As long as I've been at ABB, we've been working on a project that's actually just started off in Richland, Washington.
Oh, okay.
So it's a major nuclear waste kind of disposal facility and things like that. So they're out there, and you have to have automation to be able to manage these very hazardous waste, right? So it's something that
you're not going to have a guy in a whole hazmat standing right there.
No, there's nobody moving the barrels of nuclear waste like in The Simpsons, right?
Right.
So I think
So as far as what does AI look like in terms of aiding in development? Does ABB offer any AI tools in development of say a new area in your plant? Would we be offering sort of help there to support internally from something that we've worked on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our AI today is driven from our digital tools, right?
Right.
We spoke about energy management as one.
Mhm.
The other space that we're looking at that we're implementing it today is in asset performance. So you look at your critical assets or just your assets in your facility. Today when you look at like maintenance programs, they're done either on a schedule-based maintenance program or break fix type maintenance program, or what they say predictive. AI is really gonna help kind of evolve those that kind of asset performance management to kind of drive a better way of doing it in the future.
Absolutely. Some of my colleagues here joined us and so thankfully supported, have some questions like, do we see, in the next 5 years, a plan of how AI will be tied into our daily work, regardless of your department?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the small things, right? Use it on the things like meetings, right?
Right.
To make yourself more efficient, things like that. Tomorrow's gonna help us more efficiently implement projects, right?
Right.
Bringing in lessons learned
Mhm.
to the process at the right time.
Right.
Right, trying to find anomalies and things that you're already doing from a project perspective.
I see.
So if you're a project manager,
Mhm.
leveraging AI into your schedule to identify where the gaps are,
Oh,
right? It's already starting. Big EPC projects, I mean, there's tens of thousands of lines in the schedule.
Mhm.
How does any person keep track of that, right?
Right.
So leveraging AI into identifying where your gaps might be, where two things need to be connected and they're not because somebody didn't think about it. It happens on every project.
Mhm.
So things like that, right? And then the other aspects of it, we talked about code generation.
Right. Yeah.
We talked about leveraging AI for testing and things like that, right? So there's lots of areas I think it's going to evolve, and there's a number of use cases we haven't even covered.
Right.
Right? It's like any other any technology that's moving into space. As people use it more and get higher acumen, you're going to find new opportunities, new use cases that are not even existing today.
Right. I'm just sitting here thinking, how am I going to use it as an engineer? And I look at spreadsheets all day, and I think it would be great to, be able to consolidate all that information, get a summary of my spreadsheets that I'm, looking for this particular project. Yeah, that sounds great. I think AI is definitely going to be something that's going to be continuously developing from 5 to 10 for the next 5 to 10 years, right?
I mean, I think keep going, right? I think.
You mentioned a renaissance. There's no end.
2 years we're here.
Right.
If anything, we know anything about technology, it only accelerates the speed at which it evolves. So the next year is going to be much different than the last 2 years, and so it's all about that. And I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day around MBA, right? So is an MBA in the future going to be as valuable as something else?
Right.
Because you talk about spreadsheets. I mean, financial analysis. I think AI can probably do it way faster.
Absolutely.
Now, the decision making around it, how you make your decision, and how you arrive at the outcomes, that's where we're going to be really important.
Right, because it's not an omnipotent machine.
Right.
You are telling it what it needs to know, right? And so I see. So it's really humans continuously, having their hands in AI will help us become more comfortable and
I mean, it's like anything else. My kids don't even know what the world without iPad looks like.
Really?
And iPhones are 2007 technology.
Oh, that's
just
true.
think about that.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I mean, what's happened in the last 20 years, and it's just in that little space, right? So.
Yeah, as a child, the closest thing I got to an iPad was, the screen, a TV screen, and a flip phone.
Yeah.
So wow.
Yeah, I feel like those, TVs where you have to change the channel.
Right, or fix the antenna, right? But wow, so this has been a really great interactive AI or Q&A session here, and I hate to stop everybody, but we've got a lot of things going on here at ABB, and I'm sure everybody has much to do at the start of their new week. So thank you all for joining us today, and thank you again to for taking the time to sit here and talk with me.
Yeah, hey, thanks for the opportunity, and I'll miss this year's ECC, but I'll be there next year. Better plan my schedule, but hopefully see some new faces and meet some old friends.
Yeah, I will be at ECC this year, annual in September. So I look forward to meeting any of you if you're looking forward to connect. Thank you.